I don't think we have a choice when we're leaders to not be courageous.
Welcome to this week's As Unexpected podcast, when we talk to C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, and philanthropists about how they lead into the future when the future generally goes as unexpected. I'm Scott Marshall, your host, and my own professional experience has made me a believer that it's not how you show up when all goes as planned, but it is how you show up when things go as unplanned. Given all of their experiences, each of our guests has become very attuned to the fact that the future is not to be predicted. My hope is that this podcast can help all of you become better leaders by building the core leadership capabilities for leading in an uncertain world. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the As Unexpected podcast. My guest today is someone that I've known for a long time, and I know her and her amazing family quite well. And she just has this amazing leadership journey. I'm so glad she's agreed to join us for this episode. Please welcome Liz Zavodsky. Liz, thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me. I am so excited to be here. This is really awesome.
Great. Hey, Liz, could you just start off, give our listeners a little sense of your professional background leading up to your current role?
Sure. My professional background is actually in higher education. And after I got my master's degree from University of Denver, I went and worked in student affairs and student life at University of Arizona and worked on campus for many years there, living in the residence halls, working with students, and really giving myself to that, which was very eye-opening. And I was still growing myself through that whole process of working there and being a part of that experience. And then had a professional opportunity to sail on semester at sea as a resident director. And that changed my life. And I came back from that voyage in 2004, still committed to working in residence life and higher education, student affairs, but also then really wanted to focus on sustainability and thinking about how we're more connected to the planet after that eye-opening experience. Had the good fortune to spend some time overseas while my husband went back to school because his life was also changed. And from that, I really said, okay, if I'm leaving higher ed, I think I want to try something different. And so after 12 years in higher education, we found ourselves living in Portland, Oregon, and I founded a nonprofit organization actually that focused on, it was called the Northwest Earth Institute, which is now ecochallenge.org, and really focused on learning, education, active learning, and challenging ourselves, but also seeing the connection to the planet and really taking that educational experience a little bit further. And I fell in love with it. So I have actually been here at ecochallenge.org now for 12 years. And now I'm serving as the executive director.
Love it. Yeah. Thanks. It does also go into the as unexpected theme because you start in higher ed, you have a commitment to students and their well-being. But then you broaden that lens to the well-being of all humanity and all living creatures with your commitment with ecochallenge.org. And of course, I'm not sure if any of our audience knows, but Portland, Oregon is my hometown. It's where I was born and spent many, many years there. And of course, that's where I met Liz and her husband, and just have a great admiration for the work that they both do and that lovely city, which right now is like the best time to be there.
It's amazing. Sure. It's awesome here.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome, Liz. Again, with my belief in the practice of leadership, we have to always understand how we're going to show up for ourselves and for others when things go as unexpected. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure in your professional career, you've had lots of things that have gone in that direction. And if you would be willing, share a couple stories about something that did go as unexpected and how, first of all, you showed up for yourself. And then what that meant for how you showed up for others.
Yeah, there are so many, especially when you're working in higher education. I think, well, wherever you work, there's a lot of things that come up unexpectedly And working in residence life was one of the hardest jobs I ever had, because you had to show up for other people. You had to be a leader for students who were looking for you to be that grounded person in a time of crisis, to be a listener when they're in pain or in searching for something. There were several opportunities and moments, I would say, that really challenged me. And some of the biggest ones, I think, also challenged my own growth and like my own self. I think what was challenging about some of these experiences, and some of them are pretty drastic. We had an explosion in our building one time, so the building caught on fire. Wow. We had to make sure that people were accounted for. It was incredibly scary. I was working in residence life during 9/11. We had a lot of students living on campus who are from New York. How do you respond? How do you help people? How do you care for people? How do you, it's not just about crisis management, but it's about the unexpected stuff. And so, during that time, I think what was really eye-opening for me was the need to recognize my own response to what was happening and hold that for a moment, but not too long, and prioritize the people that I was there to lead and serve. And I think there's been time and time again, especially working in higher ed, where I've had those experiences where we've needed to make sure that people are safe, people feel they are in the know of what's happening, that they can rely on us and trust us as leaders. And that can be really hard sometimes when you are also going through that experience. I think the same thing happens. I know this is not necessarily about semester at sea. The same thing happens when you're on a voyage with semester at sea. Things can change quickly. Maybe you think you're going one place, and then world events happen and you have to go someplace else. You have to be okay with that, and you have to be able to manage yourself quickly, to then be able to lead other people, and to most importantly, you're not leading necessarily with action during that time, but being there, being that solid ground, being that listening ear, being that reassuring voice for people that it's going to be okay. We're going to get through it together.
Yeah. There's so much in what you said. I'll focus on one piece first, and that is this idea of self-care. And what does that really mean in moments that you can't just sit idle? You do have to come away with action fairly quickly. But in the absence of that self-care, we can't actually be effective in the actions we need to take. So I love what you've said, because it has such deep meaning. And do you have other instances where you really have seen the value of that self-care, whether it's 5 minutes or 24 hours? Like, you're feeling the feels, you're recognizing what you're feeling, or instances where maybe you just missed that opportunity and you acted too quickly without really understanding where you're at. I know I've done that before myself.
Oh, yeah. I think as a leader, that's how you learn. That's how you grow. As a human, that's how you learn. That's how you grow. You have to, you're not going to get it perfect every time. But if you always present yourself authentically and never lose that human connection, it doesn't mean that you're not going to feel bad or people aren't going to get frustrated, but people are going to remember, like, oh yeah, you're human too. You're an amazing leader. You're strong. You're competent. You know, whatever people might feel about a leader, and you're also human. So I know that there's been times where I've tripped, or I haven't held humanity first. I haven't held other people's feelings and well-being first. And that does not feel good. I mean, even reflecting on it today, of course, that doesn't feel good. I think another unexpected situation happened. And so I said, I've been with ecochallenge.org for 12 years. I started at this organization as a volunteer. I was then hired part-time. I then moved my way to full time. And then I applied for the executive director role and was given that. And I felt so excited. And that was in January of 2020. Same time you
Oh
took
my
on
goodness.
your role at Semester at Sea.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
just that year alone. But I think for my story with that is where the unexpected comes in. I stepped into the role in January of 2020. I felt incredibly lucky. I worked really, really hard. That was something that I'd wanted for a long time. I had a board of directors who put their trust in me. And I emphasize that because I was also pregnant and I was going to have a baby that spring, and they still hired me, which, they can't not hire me just because I'm pregnant, but it was still so great
Right.
that they put that faith in me. And then March of 2020, the world really changed and shut down in so many places and in so many ways because of COVID. And then my son was born in May of 2020. And I will never forget, on April 30th at 5 p.m., I was signing PPP loans for our organization, trying to make sure that we could keep our doors open and that my staff was going to be okay. And on May 1st, not even 24 hours later, my son was born. And then I went on 6 weeks maternity leave. And during that time, George Floyd was killed. And we have a raging pandemic. And I'm not with my staff. So it was, that was an incredibly challenging time. And it was incredibly challenging to re-enter after that, after taking that time away. And I had to take a few moments every day to just breathe. For me, I had to go outside. I had to just take a breath. I had to make sure that everyone was doing okay on our staff. And people were not okay. Things were not okay then. And that was a lot to handle because I felt like I'm a new mom in a world that I don't recognize right now. I have a team that I'm not willing to let them suffer more than they have to, because everyone experienced COVID. We might have all experienced it differently, but we all experienced it together at the same time. And I had an organization to run to make sure that our doors were open. We were not closing our doors. I was not going to let my staff have to then say, oh my gosh, and in the pandemic, I lost my job. So it was a really intense time that I had to make sure that there were moments that I could honestly just be by myself and have some fresh air. It was hard.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. First of all, that's very authentic. It's, the word vulnerable comes up a lot. It's just, I almost prefer this, that it's authentic. It's at the core of your humanity that you're wanting to share that. And there's a couple of things that ring in my head. The term resilience certainly caught hold and was very common at that time. And I think it still is used some. It's not my favorite term, I have to be honest. I prefer terms around perseverance and commitment to mission, commitment to values, because resilience just assumes we just come back to where we were before. And one of the things that you said that I just so appreciate and really align with is it's in those spaces of discomfort and difficulty and challenge where we do grow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It doesn't mean we like it. No. In fact, and sometimes it has an emotional pain to it. But it is also those moments where we grow. Mm-hmm. And I would hope that if we're growing, we're not just being resilient back to the steady state. We're actually come out to it in some ways stronger, more capable, more human. And so I'm open if you disagree with me. I'd love to get your thoughts on that perspective.
No, I actually completely agree with you. And I felt like, oh man, it's so uncomfortable sometimes when we have to go through these things. It is so uncomfortable. And that's why I think what's so important is that you show up as a human and that you, and I say this to you, and if our staff were here right now from ecochallenge.org, they might say to you, Liz is not as, like, she doesn't show herself as vulnerable often. So I own that. I definitely, I understand that. And that's something that I'm still working on. What I think is important though, is you're right. I don't love resilience either because I feel like it's an automatic, like we as humans are resilient. the world is resilient. Like resilience is a part of who we are. And anyway, like just initially. But I think that it is that moment of, okay, this feels uncomfortable, and I'm going to see my way through this, and I'm going to, because I can recognize that within myself. I can recognize that to the people around me, and it might not feel good. I'm already thinking of other examples of times where, it hasn't felt good at all. But you have to own it to build trust. You have to own it to build better and to keep going forward. Otherwise, you're just kind of stagnant, and you're not getting to where you want to go as a human, as an organization, as a project, whatever it is, whatever that goal is. You just get stuck, and that's not a healthy place to be, I think. And, I think, can I just say one more thing about the
Of
pandemic
course,
around this?
you're the guest. Go.
This is just my perspective, but towards 2022, I think, so we're 2 years into the pandemic, and I started seeing people say they wanted to do revenge travel, and they just couldn't wait to get on the next plane. And like, I want to get out of here. I just want to go travel. I want life to be back to normal. I just want it back to the way it was. I want it back to normal, back to normal. And I got so frustrated because I thought, are you kidding me? We have an opportunity to reflect on our world and on our life and how we move about this daily life and this world that we live on. Why would we ever want to go back to normal? I understand, the essence of what people were saying. Of course, I understand that. We felt like a lot was taken away from us.
Sure.
I get it.
Yeah.
And we have an opportunity to go forward in a new way. So why not take that opportunity? And it's going to be yucky, but let's do it together.
I love it. And there's this particular topic that I'd love to talk to you about how we are talking about return to work, return to office. I know this is a very specific issue, but what you've said about what did we learn and what can we gain from that very challenging period of time? I remember in 2021, 2022, all the conversation on LinkedIn and broad media, what will happen? And some were saying, well, we should have never been in the office anyway. That was inefficient. And some would say, oh, you can't all work at home because you lose productivity and you lose connectivity. And of course, there's only two sides to the debate.
Of course.
And I just watched it. And of course, as you probably are aware, in our organization, we are primarily remote now. So that kind of conveys my beliefs around this. We're more interested in hiring the best people, the most diverse people, and being sure that they can be connected and get together frequently throughout the year. But I'm curious how you fall in this. I assume that you're fairly hybrid, fairly remote, but we're human. We need to connect. So how do you fall in this?
We are human. We do need to connect. And I think oh man, Scott, you're opening a lot of things for me right now. Because I'm also an introvert. I'm a huge introvert, and that plays into your leadership style. So where do I want to start with this? I feel like we at ecochallenge.org exist today because of we were able to get the PPP loans, but mostly because our staff was able to pivot and put our programs online. And so people weren't coming together to be face-to-face to engage in our programs. We were able to put things online and engage people that way. And I'm so grateful that we were able to do that and that we were able to really pivot in that way. The organization I'm with now, founded in 1993 in Portland, Oregon, as we said earlier, and it's a really strong organization. And it has people participating in our programs across the United States, which is really awesome. Up until the pandemic, we had all of our board members residing in Oregon, mostly Portland, a little bit outside of Portland. And most of our staff was based in Portland. And the only people who were not based in Portland were kind of grandfathered in, if you will, because they had been at the organization, but then they needed to move away. And we wanted to keep them. Mm-hmm. I find myself to be more productive when I work from home. So this is me. I recognize I have colleagues that don't feel that way. And that's okay. All of us, that needs to be okay. first and foremost, that needs to be okay, that all of us are going to be
Right.
productive in our different ways. Some of us might prefer working, first thing in the morning, and like we've got all of our juices going from 8 to noon. And then in the afternoon, we need to go for a little bit of a walk. And like sometimes these long days are really hard. Some of us might wake up and feel ready to go at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, like it takes us a while to get our engines going. I think all of that needs to be recognized because we're not all hardwired the same way. Because of the opportunity the pandemic gave us as an organization, which I know not everyone's going to agree with me using opportunity in the pandemic, but there was one for our organization. And that is, we went fully remote. Those of us in Portland come together and see each other, but it gave us an opportunity to hire the best staff that we could find. And now one person is in Massachusetts, and I haven't even met her face to face yet, but I get to this fall. We've got board members spread throughout the entire United States. And it's because we needed to bring in specific skills that we were looking for and people who were really connected to the organization for some reason. And it is fantastic. It's actually making us stronger as an organization. And do I miss FaceTime? Sure. I really appreciate seeing you right now, even though we're not sitting next to each other. So I think that that's also an important piece of this, is that we move through the world so easily now that we're not going to be next to everyone that we want to see or that we're working with. So we need to figure out the best ways to make it work for us.
This episode of As Unexpected is sponsored in part by Semester at Sea, a study abroad program for college students and adults on career breaks, sabbaticals, or retired, interested in learning and exploring the world together. Learn more about the Lifelong Learner program at www.semesteratsea.org. Lots in what you said. I think we clearly are aligned on our views in this. There are many who disagree. We've seen the return to office mandates with many organizations. Of course, we've seen many CEOs of other organizations counter that by saying, that's not a long-term solution. If you're talking about Gen Z, even some early Gen Xers, that they are seeking this kind of flexibility. You got to trust them. Focus on outcomes.
Right.
There's all this conversation out there still.
Yeah.
And I still have a strong opinion that long term, this is how you attract the very best people, the most diverse talent. Yep. And you have to have a clear way where you will have people in person at times.
Sure.
They would, because you'll have turnover, you'll have new people. They gotta really know each other deeper than a job position. We'll see, right? We'll all see in 10 years from now. Hopefully I'm retired and you're the CEO of another massive organization, but we'll see. We'll see what that looks like. I just think the trend is clear, and the earlier we move to embrace that trend, the better.
I agree with you.
So with this, there are risks, but being courageous has risks. So I have a quote for you that I'm going to read, and I would love for you to respond. It's from a book that I have on my shelf. It's called The Courageous Leader. It's by a woman, Angela Sabali. And I think it's an excellent read for anybody who really wants to understand how she talks about courage in leadership.
Okay.
So I'll read it quick, and I love your answer.
Okay.
Here we go. There are risks associated with courage, and knowing them is paramount to making an educated decision about your commitment to courage. The risk of being courageous: we are vulnerable, we feel pain, and we are exposed. The risk of not being courageous: we stop short of achieving our goals to the fullest.
Oh, that's so true. I feel like that is so true. I don't think I don't think we have a choice when we're leaders to not be courageous. I think that's really important, to be courageous as a leader, and to know that, yes, that's going to come with discomfort. That's going to come with pain. That's going to come with vulnerability. That's going to come with making mistakes. But that's also got to come with, hopefully, progress and making things stronger and better. And I think that's where the humanity piece comes back into it as well, is because when you can connect with people and help them build that trust and help them understand who you are and what you're trying to do, and make sure that we're all moving in the same direction, that is where you can lessen the mistakes, you can lessen the pain and all of that kind of stuff. But I think that it's so important that we are taking risks and being courageous as leaders. I really do.
I love it.
And I recognize, even in the questions that you're asking me, there's still so many examples that are coming up. And I know there have been times where I have not been a courageous leader and I've been more ambiguous, or I've been more indecisive. And those things are okay. It's not that we can't be those things, but I was those things too much. Yeah. And it caused more disruption and chaos. And that wasn't good either, so either way, you're going to experience the pain, you're going to experience the vulnerability. So why don't you do it through the courageous avenue versus the non-courageous avenue,
I think you're absolutely right that, the lack of courage is a way to experience postponed pain.
Yeah.
Being courageous means you immediately accept the pain and discomfort so you can recognize it and you can be more compassionate towards others who will feel the same.
Yeah.
Which in the end, I think, to your exact point, leads to better outcomes for you, for others, for an organization. Love it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We're near the end, Liz.
Okay.
I'd love for you to finish off by that one piece of sage wisdom for our listeners. We can only go with one. What will it be?
Don't forget the human connection. It's really, really important. Yeah. That's
be human.
Be human.
Yeah.
And remember, other people are human as well. Meet in your humanity. Meet in your humanity.
Love it. One more time, say it for us.
Meet in your humanity.
That's spot on. Thank you so much, Liz. This has been awesome.
We'll
see you soon. This episode of As Unexpected is sponsored in part by Semester at Sea, a study abroad program where students visit 10 countries on 3 continents, all while taking 3 to 4 college classes through Colorado State University. See course offerings and upcoming voyage itineraries at www.semesteratsea.org.